Hello everyone, this is Tina from Tina's Workshop, and today I have a easy little tutorial for you that comes in very handy. I put the thumbnail as it is a yarn bowl, but it can be many other things. So this is my sample one that I made, and this one is set up to be using it as a yarn bowl with the yarn in it. It has little pockets in the side where you can put things like your crochet hook, your needles, your scissors. Where are they? There they are, scissors. You can hook your stitch markers right on it, put your yarn in the center, and it works really, really nicely. Come on. But that being said, this also works great next to your bed and putting glasses, remotes, things like that into it. And what started this for me was probably about 5 years ago. I was making a stocking, and this was the toe of the stocking. And it was very thick and chunky, and I just did not care for it. But I also didn't feel like pulling the whole thing out. So I had it sitting like this for a while. And I used it for a number of things. I put a plant in it at one point, and I did different things. Well, my mom got sick, and she was staying with us, and I didn't want to really leave her side. And my son had this massive bean bag that was big enough that I could fully lay on it like a bed. So I put that on the floor right near where she was sleeping. I wear glasses, so I need somewhere where I can set my glasses at night. And generally, I'm setting my cell phone near me too, as most of us do now in this day and age. We seem to not be able to live without it. So I started to use this, and I was putting the cell phone and my glasses in it. And because it had this contoured bottom, I could put it on that bean bag where I was sleeping. It would contour to it, and everything stayed in it, and it didn't tip out and fall over, and it wasn't on the floor where somebody was going to step on it. And I started using it all the time, and it was eye-opening, I guess you could say, for me. So I ended up, when mom went back home for a while. When she went back home, I had made her one. I actually made her two. I ended up making her one for here and one for there. And then shortly after, she came back and pretty much stayed with us. And she took, I'll pull my stuff out. This one I use all the time. Can hold a lot of stuff, I'm telling you. I got a lot of stuff in here. Let's see, did I get it all? Oh, no, there's something else. Oh, I don't know what that was. Okay, so I ended up making her two. I made her this one. She ended up taking the two and putting them together, which just kind of stiffened it up a little bit more. And I'm like, I got an idea going here. I took mine and I made a little piece to go inside of it. And I stitched it along the different areas. So I've got little pockets. Well, the one I did was actually, they're a little bit short. It works, but they're a little short. I would have liked it coming up a little bit higher. Well, mom, she had taken those two together and stuck in here. So I ended up taking and stitching them in here together. So now there's big, tall pockets, and it works really, really well. Now, that being said, how did we get to a yarn bowl? Well, like I said, this sits next to my bed, and it's not the most attractive. I was actually using leftover yarns I had at the time, so this is a good stash buster. I have it sitting next to my bed. It's all my little odds and ends into it, and even with all these little things into it, there's still space in here. So let me drop the stuff back in and show you. My glasses don't go in there until I'm actually in bed at night, and I haven't been sitting my phone in it lately. I've been setting it next to it, but so my glasses go in there later on. And sometimes as I'm sitting there watching TV, the remote, at least one, this one's for my bed. I have a mechanical bed, but at least one remote is usually out because I'm using it to change the TV. So I still have all that space in there. I was working on my Wonderland yarns the other day, and I've done this before, but I hadn't really thought about it. So I've got this nice little tiny ball, and I had dropped it into here as I was working in my room. And it works so perfectly. And even with stuff in it, it doesn't pop out. I think because of the yarn against the yarn, it kind of holds it there. Worked really well. And I'm like, now I've got another use for these things. So I decided, why not make one for a yarn bowl? I did actually make another one of these too. I had made one for my sister-in-law, and she keeps it sitting on her bed with all her stuff in it, and she has packed it. She's stretched it and packed it full. She's got a lot of stuff in hers. So I wanted to make sure and have an actual pattern for you guys. So I made this one up and worked my pattern. So I'm going to give you a tutorial on it. Now, when I did mine the other day, I used this yarn you may have seen in another video when I did the easy hat. So I still had more of that. I used it, still have more. So it's the re-spun thick and quick, and this one I used on the inside was a Woolies, and they are both number 6 yarns. What I'm going to use for today's is also number 6 yarn. Now I weighed how much I had used, and I had done 1.3 ounces worth of yarn I used on the inside and 2.6 ounces on the outside. I weighed my scraps that I'm using today, and they are both right about 2.1 or 2.2 ounces, which is extremely close to what I had used on the others. So I think it'll be close enough to work. And you know, the yarns are there's gonna be a little difference in weights and things like that. So move that out of our way. I am going to use Woolies. Again, these are scraps that I have laying around. So I'm going to use this one for, I think I'm going to, trying to decide which one. These are the two that I've picked. And maybe I'll do the blue on the outside and do the multicolor on the inside. And I am using a size M hook. They every one of these labels recommended an N. I went down by 1 hook size because I wanted this to be a little bit tighter and denser because it is a container. So I am using that little bit smaller one, and you can see it stands up nicely, but you still want that bit of flexibility because if you do use it on an uneven surface, the arm of a chair, you can use it on the arm of a chair. You know, if you're at the sofa or something, again, it's uneven and it's going to sit there because it's going to contour. So it's going to work great for all kinds of situations. And so number 6, bulky yarn is what we're using. We're using a size M hook, and we are going to, this is the size that I'm creating, which for me, I think is a really nice basic size, whether you're using it next to your bed or you're using it as a yarn bowl. But you can modify this and make it smaller or larger depending on what you're doing. You just are going to either increase more or stop sooner. But I am going to show you how to make this size. So let's get started. Okay, I am going to use my little yarn bowl as we do this so you can see how well it works. And I'm going to start with a magic ring. If you prefer starting with a chain circle, that's fine. I'm going to use a magic ring because that's what I like. And I may do mine differently than some people do. This is how I do mine. I loop, make a loop. I insert through the loop, pull through, and make a chain. And then I flip it over so that I'm working over my tail. And we are going to do 6 single crochet into the loop. I'm not counting that first chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, make sure it's nice and flat. Pull our tail, cinch it all in, and we are going to work into the first V of the stitch there. So we're going to go into that one, and we are going to work 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So 1, and then a little stitch marker here. Put our stitch marker in our first one so we know where we're coming back to. 2, 1, 2. It is going to be a little bit tight because we did go down a hook size. But that, like I said, that's going to make it denser. If we did a double crochet, it would make it looser too. And I'm doing the single crochet because we want it nice and tight. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We are back to our beginning. So you should now have 12 stitches. Okay, so next row, we are going to work 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 in the next, 2 in the next. So we're doing a 2-1 repeat. At least that's what I call it. That's how I make my little notes for myself. Okay, so 1 stitch, place our marker, 2nd single crochet in that same, 1 single crochet in the next, 2, in the next, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. See how nicely that yarn stays in there. 1 and 2. 1, 2. Ah, we can all mess up, right? I did 2 and 2 in a row. I'm like, that didn't work out right. So right there, did an extra stitch. So, and I knew that because when I got to the end, I was working a increased stitch, and I should have been working a single stitch. So it's the easiest way to tell that you've messed something up. And in this project, it would not really have mattered, but in some projects, it's going to matter big time. Okay, so we are now on to the next row, and we are going to work another increase. This time we are going to do 2 We're going to do our increase stitch in the first, so 2 single crochets. Use our marker. And 1 single crochet in the next one, 1 single crochet in the next one. So we're doing a 2-2 increase repeat. So 2 single crochets in the same stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 2 in the next one, one in the next, and 1 in the next, 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet. We're going to do this to the end of this round. Oh, come on, catch it. Okay, what was that? I'm at a double, right? Yep. 2, 1, and 1. There's the end of that round. Okay, now the next one, we're going to work another increase. This one is going to be a 2-3 increase. So we are going to work 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then the next 3 stitches we will be working 1 single crochet. So 1, 2 single crochets in that first one, and then 1 single crochet in the next 1, 2, 3 stitches. 2 single crochets, and then 1, 1, and 1. All the way to the end of the round. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, and 1, 2, 1. Oh, come on. That's when you lose count. Okay, 1, 1, and 1, 2, 1, 1, and 1. Okay, so if you wanted a smaller one, you could stop here and start working your rows going up. I want one the size of that, so we're going to keep going. We're going to do one more increase round. So this one is going to be a 2-4 increase. We are going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next 4. So place our marker. So 2 in that first stitch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 in the next one, 1, 1, 1, oh, 1, 2. We're going to do this all the way around. 1, 1, 1 and 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Should be, I think, one last repeat here. 2, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, that is the base for our container. Okay, so we've got 36 stitches now in this circle, and now we're going to start working the sides going up. So on the first round, we are going to now if you look, you'll see V's along the edge. That's each one of your stitches. Normally you're going underneath both of those V's. We're going to go just into the back one on this round. So we're going to work 1 single crochet in the back loop only. This time I'm going to mark with a different stitch marker because I'm going to leave it there for a while. So back loop only, 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. And that's going to create just this little tiny ridge, and it will just help our container know that we're wanting to go up right there with a bit of an edge as opposed to a soft curve. In theory, that's what we're doing. Whether it makes a difference or not, I don't really know, but I like to think it does. And you can see here where I did that. That's right along our edge. So 1 single crochet in each around, and if it's still laying flat, that's okay. When you get a few more rounds up, it will start to pull itself in. You won't really notice it so much right here at the beginning. So 1 single crochet, back loop only, all the way around to our marker. If you don't have a stitch marker, a lot of times will take a little piece of scrap yarn and I just lay it over my work right here. I'll just take it and lay it like this on my first stitch, and then I'll stitch and it'll sit there. Sometimes I use my tail. Here, let's see if my tail's long enough to show you. I'll take the tail, if it's long enough, I'll just drape it over the stitch like this and hold it. And then do my stitch. When I come back around, then I know when I get to that point, I'm at the beginning of the round, and I can just pull it out and lay it onto the next one. So if you don't have a stitch marker, you can do that, or you can just count your stitches. We are working 36 stitches at this point. So once you've counted to 36, you know you're back at the beginning of the round. This row is a little easier to tell when you're back at the beginning of the round because we are working back loop only. You've got this little ridge you did not have before, and when you come back to that little ridge, you'll know you're back at the beginning of the round. So we are almost there. There's our stitch marker. There's my last stitch. So, like I said, it's still kind of laying flat. This is going to start to fold up as you work it. Now we are going to keep working in rounds. We're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch. So not the back loop, but the whole V. And you see I just worked over that one. I'm not going to move it each time because I know when I come to the end, it's going to be approximately in this area. If I'm a stitch or two off when I get to the top, it's not going to really matter. I just want to know that I'm right about that point. So I'm going to work one single crochet in each stitch around, and I'm going to keep working this until I have completed. So we are now on row 8, and when we get to row 16, we're going to work through row 16. So we're working, what is that, 8 rows up. When I get to the end of row 16 back at this point, then I will show you how to bind off and start the next part. So continue working one single crochet all the way around for the 8 more rows, and I will meet you back there in a minute. Okay, so I am back, or I am around to the done my rows. As you can see, I've changed colors. There's a reason for that. I ran out of yarn. So I did not realize how much difference there was in just how much different yarns weigh, because this should have actually, if it was the same weight, it should have gotten me around. So lesson learned. And I usually go by yardage, and I decided to do something different this time. But because I do like these colors together, and you know, that type of thing is, I mean, people do that. This is a, you may have seen in another one of my videos, is a wall hanging basket, and you can see how it has the 2 different colors. So we're just going along with some fashion trends. So I just picked up my other yarn and continued to go, and I still have this much left, so we'll see how far that gets me when I do this inside. But you can see here I just picked up the next yarn and continued to go, and then there's where that beginning of round markers at. And like I said, we don't have to be super precise on this one, so I can just see that I'm going straight up from that. That's where I'm going to end. And how I end this off, because I don't want this big step that's right here. So I've done that single crochet. The next one, I'm going to do a slip stitch. So we're going to pull through, but instead of making another loop, we're going to just pull all the way through. Then, let's see, where's the scissors? There they are. We're going to leave not a long tail, but a little bit of a tail. We're going to clip that off. And I'm not making another loop like some people will loop here. I'm going to just pull it out. So we've got this funny looking little thing right there. Get me out my yarn needle. Okay, so now we're looking at these top V's again. And if you pull this over, you'll see it kind of pulls over one of the V's. So we're going to go not into this V, but this next one. So that's going to loop right over it. And we are going to, from the front of our work, from the right side, we're going to go into that stitch to the wrong side. Then we're going to come up, and we're going to go in to that last loop right there, which is going to create that V that matches everything else. Now, this being 2 different colors here, you're going to see that transition, but when it's not 2 different colors, you don't see it. The only thing is if you really look hard, you can see there's a little bit of a raise there, but when you pull on it a little bit, you don't notice it. So tug it a little bit so that it gets a little straighter, and then we're going to weave in as normal, I tend to go down to the next row, and then I'll go across. And if you've watched any of my other tutorials, you know I like to double back to tighten things in. So you don't want to pull it too tight and cinch things up, but then I'm going to go back over one thread and back down. So it kind of locks it in. Now, there's my end, okay? So again, I don't want it too tight that it pulls things tight there. And snip that off. We can take out this marker. And now we're going to go into the bottom and finish that off. Now, you did work over your tail if you did it like I did, but some people will just go ahead and snip it there. I don't. I like, because I just like to make sure things are really good and secure. So I will go at least halfway around again, sometimes more. This one is really tight, so I don't think I'm going to have too much problems. But again, I'm going to go back and go over, go back a couple just to lock that in. And snip it off. Okay, so that is the outside of our bowl. So you can see it, I mean, you could end here, but you can see the difference here. This is going to be a lot squishier than this one is. This one just holds up a little bit better. So this is more like what I first started with when I first started doing this, and it worked just fine. But we're going to create the little pockets in it. If you really wanted it to stand really nice and stiff, you could create another bottom. You could put a piece of cardboard in there and create another bottom and put in it. But we're just going to do the sides. So in this one, this was two of them put together. So this one does have a second bottom in it. And you could, if I had stuck a piece of cardboard in there, it would really make it stiff. But otherwise it's, you know, it's a little thicker there, but it doesn't make a huge difference. In the first one that I added into, that one I only did on the sides. And like I said, my sides are really a little bit too short. Those should have come up higher. So I can't put anything super big into those, but you know, I have the soft bottom. Now this one has fancier stitching on it, which actually helps to create this shape a little bit more. But the pattern I was originally doing was actually made to lay like that. So I flattened it. Okay, so we are going to make the inside piece like we have here. It's just going to go around the inside. We are going to work it in the round so that it has the same look. You could work it flat and stitch it together. I'm working it in the round. I created the pattern to work it in the round. So we are going to start with a chain. We are going to chain 30. Everybody has their different ways of doing slip knots. This is mine. For me, I think it is very easy. When a lot of times when I show people, they get confused, but I take and loop my yarn. I hold here, put my finger in here, put two fingers in, and I turn and I grab the long yarn. No, hold on. I grab the short yarn. There we go. So I'll do that again. So I lay it like this. I stick, hold here, stick two fingers in, twist it, and I grab the tail, short tail, and I pull it. And that's my slip knot. And I am going to chain 30. And you can either go up a hook size when you chain, or like on this one, this goes a little bit wider here. So I try to push all the way down to that as I do it. So it makes that chain just a little bit looser. Sometimes I just kind of lift as I do it. because you don't want a tight chain or it messes with the way things are. And you know what? I was not counting. I was explaining and not counting. Okay, this time I'm just going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I chained 30. Now we're going to work in the round. However, I have a little trick to working in the round. Generally, you would make sure that you have this chain straight and you'd start working in the round that way. And you can do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that, and I've done that many times. But sometimes people have issues twisting this row as they're doing it. So if you have an issue doing that, I'm going to show you a little trick. So we're going to work in the second chain from the hook. So when we're done, we are going to have 29 stitches. We are going to work a single crochet in each one of these stitches down, or each one of these chains. Oop. So now if you remember, we were working 36 stitches when we did this. We are working 29 stitches now. And it seems like it's a whole lot less, but it's still, we're fitting it inside of there, and it's amazing how much difference there is in size. If you try and loop this around the outside when you're done, it's not going to fit, and in the inside you almost feel like it's too much. So 29 stitches, single crochet all the way down the chain, and almost there. Giving me an ice cream vibe, the colors in this yarn. Like a chocolate and a strawberry here and maybe a mint there. I don't know. Okay, down to the last one. Now we're going to continue in the round. So we've got this nice strip that's really easy to visualize. So we're going to bring it around, and we're going to pick up on that first V there, the first stitch, and that's where we're going to work. So we want our yarn to that side. And we're going to pick up and do our single crochet as if we're working in the round. We're going to work single crochets in each stitch around. And so you can see where we started. We have this funny little gap, but you can use your needle or your crochet hook and do kind of like we did on the top. You're just going to loop it in and loop it back, and it's going to finish that off, and then you can go ahead and weave that end in. I have a very short end, so let's see how far I can get it. Yep, that's as far as that one's going to go. There you go. And there's your in the round. So we're going to keep working in the round until we have a total of 7 rows. And since I wove that in already, I don't have that as a marker. We want to make sure we know where our beginning of the round was. I usually will leave that till the end and it creates my marker for my beginning of round. So we're going to continue this and work 7 rows total. So I will meet you back at the end of the 7 rows. Okay, so I am back with my 7 rows complete, and if you notice, the yarn has changed color again because I ran out. I have a little container here full of all different little bits of the thick yarn. So I went through to find a color that would go with this, and I picked out this gray. I believe it's another Woolies. So I used that because I thought it would go the best with what I was doing. So I've gotten to my 7th round, and I'm going to finish it off the same way I did on the other one. I'm going to do a slip stitch. I'm going to cut that yarn and pull it out. Pull it forward. You can see where it goes over. I'm going into that next one under the V and back down into that stitch. And now that it's all one color, you can see how nicely that finishes it off. Go down a row, weave in my end. We already did the tail on the first part, so I'm only having to weave in this one. And of course, I worked over my yarn when I changed colors. Snip that off. Okay, so there's our inside piece. I can take the stitch marker off. So I have a choice now. I can either put this in with the gray up, or I can put it in with the color up. I think I'm going to use the gray because it'll create a difference in here. Because if I put it in with the color side up, though it is slightly different, it's still going to really blend in. If I put it in with the gray side up, you're going to see that difference like you did in here. So it just depends on how you want to do it. You could work this whole thing in one color where you wouldn't see that at all. But this is the way I'm going to do it. So we're going to take this piece, we're going to set it inside of our other one, and we're going to push down the bottom bit. I'm just barely tugging. I just want it to fit in there nicely because it's going to go just under that lip. So even though it should be about a row below what the other one is, like you see here. It's about a row below. And I just want it to sit in there nicely. Oh, that was where I went over my tail. I should snip that a little bit cleaner. Okay. Now, on this one, when I stitched it in, you can see I used the yarn from the outside so that you wouldn't see it. On this one, I've gone through 3 different yarns. All I have left of the blue is that. All I have left of this multicolor is that. So I'm going to use the gray. So you're going to probably see some stitches on the outside on this one, but that will be okay. It's multicolored. It's, it is what it is. So I'm going to pull out a length of it and cut it. I don't want to pull out too much because it starts messing with your yarn. You can always get more later. So I have to pull the majority of my tail down. I am going to start in the bottom. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go around this whole bottom. Now you could flip it this way. I don't want to do that because I'm afraid if I do that, it's going to pull funny. Just like how I said, you can't really put this on the outside because it doesn't fit. So by doing that, you're going to end up with the whole thing, I think, kind of pulling funny. So even though it's a little bit, potentially a little bit more difficult working on the inside of this, I think it's going to ultimately come out better. So I'm going to go around the bottom on the inside first so that it creates that barrier on this one. I did that so you can see where it's not going to go anywhere. When I did this one, I didn't do that. I only went down the sides. So actually I went across on some of them. It was just the way I happened to sew it in. So two of the sides go all the way down and underneath. So I've lost, I mean, I can find them, but I've had things go all the way down under there before. So it's better to stitch around that whole side so nothing is going to come out of the bottom down here. Okay. So now when you're working this, you can fold it up some. If you get your pieces where you want them, and then you hold it like this, you can create this flat piece and you can work it. And then when you go to another spot, you're going to set that down. You're going to get over to that spot and you can fold it up like this again. So you can do that. So I'm going to start here at the beginning of the round and I am going to weave in my end. So I'm going to go away from where I'm working and pull to the end of the tail so it's just inside of it, and then go over a thread and come back, which is going to lock that in again. So now my yarn tail is not going anywhere. I'm going to double check I've got it all laid in right along that bottom edge. You can see that bottom edge is going to be right where this ridge is that we created. And I'm going to, now I have the bent needle on this one, which it does, I think, make it a little bit easier, but you don't have to have the bent needle. I've only recently gotten this, so for years I've done this without it. So we're going to weave in and out. So we're going to go over a stitch and under a stitch, just like weaving. And we're going to do this all the way around the bottom. And like I said, if you feel like it's adjusting itself, straighten it back up, pull up your next section. Over, under. Over, under. Straighten it up. Go to my next section. And I can feel that little ridge under my fingers on the outside. So I know I'm in the right place. And this is going to help hold this whole piece together when you go to do the next part too. Over, under, over, under. Straighten it up, move around, over, under, over, under. Over, under, over, under. We should be just about back to the beginning already. And there's our beginning. I think I'm going to do One more stitch here. That should bring us back to where we started. Yep. Okay, so now we need to do, we want pockets in here. So we're going to do 4 pockets. At least that's what I'm doing. So you can always do more if you want. Now, this is how I laid mine out. So I'm going to do one is going to come up right where that beginning around was. So that's going to be my first one. Put a marker right there. Now, pull this down like this, straight across. We're going to put another marker. Now, if we take these 2 markers, bring them together, we can put 2 more markers down here. Okay, so now we have our 4 spots where we're going to stitch. So I'm going to stitch up and back down, which will create the way this looks. We're going to do the same over under, but when we come back, we're going to do the opposite over under, which will create a nice straight line. So against opposite colors, you're going to see it this way, but on this side, you don't even notice it unless you're looking. Okay, so we're going to hold this nice and flat again, hold it up here, and we're just going to do the same over under, straight up to the top. So over, under. Okay, so now I'm just going to come back in that opposite. So I'm going to go over here and under that one. Over, under. When I get down here, you'll notice it more. Under. I'm going to come back right over this one and weave in my tail. Now, if you have a long enough piece and you want to try and work around to your next one, you can. Let's see if we have enough that if I work over to here, I can maybe get up. So I think I'm going to actually clip this one because I wove it in. I'm going to clip it and we'll see how much I have here. Now here's on the outside of this one, because we are using an opposite color, but it's not that noticeable. Okay, we did this one. I'm going to take this off. We know we finished that one. And down to this one. Weave in my yarn. And we're going to start our over under. Let's see. Going back out, starting over here. Okay, I'm going to go up this one. Not that it really matters on this. I'm just moved over so I'm closer to that marker that I put. Over, under, all the way up. And now we're going to come back down. Now, don't have enough to go all the way to the bottom, so I'm just going to go ahead and weave this end in right here. Oh. when your tail is too short to weave in, you stick your needle through, pinch your yarn. Oh, come on. Stick your yarn through your needle, pull it up and slide it so that it's just inside of there. Pull it down through. Now, they're itty bitty tail, but you know, I like to weave them back in. I'm still going to go over, pull it back through, and see how I fold my yarn? I've noticed somebody the other day that didn't fold it, and it's really hard to get through that needle. You fold it, it pokes right through. Pull it back through, give it a little twist and a wiggle. I'm holding it here so I don't pull it too tight, and there you go. It's all in, nothing to trim because I used the whole piece. So let's cut another piece and keep going. Okay. So we are going back to our over under. We want to go over under right there. So pick up because I know that next one is an over. I'm going over and then under what is already there. Over and under. And then I'm going to just come right back up to that point, over that end. Okay, so that one is done. We got two more. Now, I know I have enough because I just added in that I can work around to that one. So I'm just going to do what we did earlier and work some over-unders right along that base until I get to the next one. And you could, if you wanted to, work all this at the same time, work around, go up and down, work around, go up and down. Only reason I did it this way was because I felt like I was holding the whole piece on a little bit better when I was working these pieces. Excuse me. It's a little chilly in here today. Okay. So now we're to the next one. I'm going to over under all the way up. I'm going to move this marker just because it's kind of in my way. And we're going to come back down. Same way. Doing our over under. And I still have a pretty long piece, so I'll go ahead and work around to the next one. Now, because I am using a different color yarn, where I'm working around the base here will be seen a little bit more. So if that bothers you, you may want to actually go all the way around that second time. Okay, so working up. And that stitch and back down. It's always harder when you're trying to do this so it can be seen on the camera. So I apologize if I get out of frame. Okay, so leave our end in. Snip off our thread. And there is our yarn bowl. So you can see here where I went over the stitching a little bit more as opposed to over here. But like I said, when you're using the same color yarn, you don't notice that at all. So now we have our little bowl. We can take our stitch markers and hook them right into the edge of our bowl, like I had done over here. Take our scissors, stick them in there, stick our little thing, a yarn needle, stick right in there, stick your crochet hook right in there, throw in a ball of yarn, there we go. There is our little handy dandy yarn bowl with all our little goodies in it. I think they look super cute, super functional, and again, you can use them for other things. So I could take this out of here. I could throw my remote controls in there, throw in some lotion along the side, chapstick. I like chapstick by my bed. So you could add and put an applique onto these, fancy them up. You could do a fancier stitch if you wanted to, like what was on this one. You could embellish them in many different ways, but I think these are just really nice, really useful, and work great for putting your yarn and things like that in, hooking your stitch markers. If you were do spindles like I do, you could make a taller one for your spindle to go into. This is the one that I bought that's actually for hanging on the wall. So you could do something like that even. And then they're little wall baskets. Sorry, I'm saying but I was trying to think of other things that you can do with these. There's, what I was originally had done with this one at one point was putting the flower pot in it. So you could do something like that too, so that it matches the decor in your house or something like that. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you will make one yourself. If you do, come join my Facebook group and show me what you've done, or post it on Instagram and tag me in it. My links for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everything is down below. So make sure, click on those different things, click like, click subscribe if you'd like to see more, notify if you'd like to be notified when I upload. I would definitely like to see what you guys do with this. I hope you've really enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you all again soon. Bye.